Bale in the San Siro, just tearing it up. Again, little old Spurs going to the European champions at the time and scoring a hat-trick. It was just like sublime. And Conte didn't admit he wanted to stay. He acted like he was doing us a favour, like being at our club. Some rival fans and neutrals were all going, Tottenham are going to finish ninth. I thought, no, with the quality of player we've still got, yeah, that's the thing. Thinking, oh, Spurs a big team now? Probably people would answer no to that nowadays, but still. But I was like, are we getting somewhere? Are we going to be doing this year in, year out?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with a special episode. I feel like Spurs doesn't get enough love on the podcast because obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, Luke's a QPR fan. So we thought it'd be time to get a Spurs fan on board to talk all things Spurs. Sonny, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to chatting about Spurs. Positive season so far, even from an Arsenal fan, you must have to admit that. And a QPR fan, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Not doing too well, are they? Bit hit and miss.
No, not too well. Not too well. I mean, we're turning it around slowly but surely. In Marty, we trust. Yeah, Sonny, just talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, where we can find you at.
Yeah, so basically, SonnyTalksSpurs on YouTube. Try and upload every other day as much as I can because I also work for TalkSport as well. So always quite a hectic schedule going on. But yeah, check me out on their YouTube, SonnyTalksSpurs.
Lovely stuff.
Exciting times at the moment at Spurs. But I think we'll start with a bit more about your kind of, I don't know, Spurs, being a Spurs fan, just with some quick fire questions to get going. So what is your favourite Spurs memory growing up? Do you have one that kind of sticks out?
I'd say growing up, I feel like more recently, probably the Champions League semi-final against Ajax, because
big.
It was just the most Spurs thing ever, of like going like 3-0 down on aggregate and then turning it around in the last minute. Just will live long in the memory. That felt like our final. I know we didn't lift the trophy and it didn't end up how we wanted to, but for little old Spurs to get to a Champions League final, semi-final, go on that run we did, beating City, that's pretty much up there. And then a bit further back, I'd say, you know, Modric, Bale in the San Siro, just tearing it up. Again, little old Spurs going to the European champions at the time and scoring a hat-trick. It was just like sublime. And that was when I was like quite a bit younger. So, and my proper like, thinking, oh, Spurs a big team now? Probably people would answer no to that nowadays, but still. But I was like, are we getting somewhere? Are we going to be doing this year in, year out? But it's never easy.
Something as happening here,
yeah. You mentioned Modric and Bale. You got a favourite Spurs player or just favourite football player in general when you were growing up?
I have like four. I've got like multiple answers to these questions. I love Defoe.
That's good.
I love Defoe. Defoe is just like, I think he's like heavily underrated due to like, he just played for so many clubs, banged goals in wherever he could. So he's up there. Exactly. Massive fan of Ledley King. Just the thought process when I was younger, like this guy doesn't train. He's always injured, but yet he was playing week in, week out. I just couldn't get my head around that. Wayne Rooney, I was always a big fan of because I looked at Rooney and thought he's not built like a footballer. I don't know why. I always used to think of it like this guy shouldn't be a professional footballer, but he was.
We were talking about this on the pod a couple of weeks ago. How like 16-year-old Rooney was built like a 35-year-old man, and nobody talks about that.
Like the Luke Littler of football.
Yeah, like nobody talks about that. It's crazy.
But I'd say them, and then I'd say that those are my top three really. So two
that's
Spurs,
solid. That's a solid lineup. So I think we should get into ANGE POSTECOGLOU because I think he is the man at the moment, and kind of the reason we're doing this video because he's an exciting manager. I want to know a little bit before you got ANGE in. So you're going into the summer, Conte's gone. Harry Kane's leaving. Is it your director of football or that he's like just been done for dodgy dealings?
So it was Fabio Paratici who, it's hard to know what he was, sort of like a director of football type. Yeah. It's sort of hard to know what he was doing, but now he's still involved in the club. I'm not sure how legit all this stuff is. It seems all like, you know, under the carpet sort of dealings. But
so going into summer, it was kind of like a weird time. How were you feeling kind of going into summer with mainly Harry Kane leaving and not having kind of a set manager lined up?
Well, that's the thing, because I only launched my channel this season. So I was thinking to
It was a good
myself,
time, yeah.
well, we're going to have like a massive head loss moments, because last year was just, last couple of years, not to sound woe is me, but supporting Tottenham has been a struggle. Like, it's just not been good enough football. It's just been absolutely dire week in, week out. Just, having Jose Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, where people forget, Conte, Stellini, Ryan Mason, like
Ryan
it was
Mason's
just
crazy.
weird. It was just weird. And then obviously bringing in Ange Postecoglou. And at first I was like, oh God, like this guy has been unreal at Celtic.
Yeah.
Is he going to translate into the Premier League, like this really attacking football? Which Tottenham don't ask for much. Like, we don't get trophies, but we ask for attacking football. We've been known to have some of the best strikers, attacking players like Van der Vaart and players like that. Bale, Modric, we're mentioning all these players. So we're used to like having a good standard of football.
Yeah, 100%.
If it doesn't get us anywhere. And what with Kane leaving as well, especially on the eve of the Premier League, I didn't think, when some rival fans and neutrals were all going, Tottenham are going to finish ninth. I thought, no, with the quality of player we've still got, that's the thing. With the quality of player we still have, I believed that the likes of Son would improve. Getting Maddison was an impressive signing out of nowhere. I had faith we'd finish around sixth. I thought sixth would have been that would have been impressive. Like, that would have been over the odds. But being where we are at the time of recording, fourth place, Aston Villa on our tails, and Man United, I would have snapped anyone's hand off. I've been so impressed. I think Ange has proved a lot of people wrong. I think there's a stat that's been doing the rounds with, I think, gained 15 points and lost 15 points this season.
I saw that. It's crazy.
So,
classic Spurs.
That's Ange ball in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Ange ball and Spurs basically match hand in hand. So, yeah, it's been exciting, but there's still a lot to work on.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing he's done, like the turnaround, it can't be understated. I think sort of things were looking a little bit better for a while when Mourinho came in. And then obviously there was the whole sort of issue with him, and when they got to the cup final, getting sacked was it like a day before the cup final, and then from then you lost that, and then it just went on a downward trajectory. You had some sort of resurgence under Conte, I think the last half of his first season there, and then it just was negative. The football was negative. I mean, every manager you had in play, it was almost terrorist football. It was set up at the back, 5 at the back, and just nothing going forward. And lapsing into this season, sort of the brink of last season, the only player that was really putting up any sort of numbers was Harry Kane, as expected. Son had a really tough time last season. Came on, I think he scored a hat-trick against Leicester.
Had him in my fantasy team.
People thought he was going to turn it around, and it never really did. He sparked into life this season alongside the likes of James Maddison. I think Van der Ven has been an absolutely outstanding signing. You've seen the likes of Destiny Udogie really come through and play. He's probably been the best left back in the league. So yeah, you're seeing a lot of these sort of, I wouldn't say lesser known, but these teams, these players weren't being cherry picked by other teams. Like James Maddison, I think had a little bit of interest from Newcastle, but he's come through and absolutely just blown the league away this season. We knew what he could do, but no one really sort of went out there and got him. The Spurs have. So I think between that and Ange, your shrewdness in the market, I think it's just been a massive turnaround, and something that couldn't have been really foreseen. You had an 10-game unbeaten start to the season. So just following on from that, after those 10 games, where were you? You must be in dreamland.
Cloud 9, yeah.
Well, I'm very much a Spurs glass half empty sort of fan. I just think, don't go too far, keep going
and then the
bit
moment
by
it
bit.
gets good,
but I
you
mean,
can go mental.
That's the thing, because that Chelsea game, I've never seen anything like that.
Mental.
The injuries, the suspensions, and I just thought, here we go, beginning of the end now. So we've had this really nice run. We've lost 2 key players in Maddison and Van der Ven. We get suspensions for Romero and Udogie, and I thought the wheels would come off a little bit. We've gone through a massive injury crisis as well. It's been a tricky season, and being able to navigate around this whole, players going off to international tournaments halfway through a season. But yeah, going back to that first 10 games, because I had heard from a few different fans, like Celtic fans and, Aussie fans, being like, I'll give Ange time. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And I thought, all right, But then when we started as quick as we did, and like our passing had improved, our attacking numbers were up, all the metrics were going in the right direction. I was like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? It wasn't meant to be like this. So it's just nice to see attacking football. It's just so good because I don't care what people say. Like people will say about like Conte and Mourinho and that. Like it was meant to be defensive football, but we let in like 60 plus goals last season. And you know, if you're not winning now or doing well now with a team and a manager like that, then what's the point? You might as well
100%.
go out there and put like, because I keep having conversations with like West Ham fans because I'm originally from Essex, so I know a lot of West Ham fans, and they keep saying like, oh, but Moyes this, Moyes that, and I'm like, but Moyes isn't going to be there forever. Like you've got all these talented players like Kudos and Paqueta. If they had such a if they, you know, and Moyes has won that trophy, he's kept them up, he's done well. But if they went out and got an attacking manager, I think they would do even better than they are already. You just sort of need like that step and that leap, and we've sort of done that with Ange.
100%. It's kind of like Bournemouth taking the leap and getting Areola in. Like they've got a team, and then with exciting players, and they've paired that with the exciting manager, and that's starting to pay dividends. But I want to go back to bringing up Antonio Conte. So I've got an interesting kind of situation that I want to throw by you. So in Conte's first 12 games, he won 7, drew 3, lost 2. So a pretty good start for Antonio Conte. And like we were saying, Ange in the Prem, 10 unbeaten in his first season. What do you think is different in Ange's first 10 games to Conte's first 10 games, where both of them have got good results? But why do you feel like a lot more positive about Ange?
That's a really good question, and I think the answer's quite simple. It's with Conte, we always knew, like last season when it was getting really dire and awful, we sat there, and you know when like people were like, well, why haven't Tottenham given him the money to sign a Bastoni? Why are they still playing Eric Dyer? Conte didn't admit he wanted to stay. He acted like he was doing us a favour, like being at our club. He thought he was bigger than the football club. And he might well be, because he's won Premier Leagues. You know, he's won trophies everywhere he's gone. Same with Mourinho. But at the end of the day, we want a manager who wants to be there and sees a project. You know, there's all these rumours at the moment about could he replace Jurgen Klopp. I don't think so, because
I was going to end with that, but let's talk about it.
But I don't think he will, because I think, you know, we've signed players for him. He wanted a quick centre back. He wanted a creative midfielder, because Andrew signed a 4-year deal, which, you know, in football is quite long term now. It's not as long as Fergie or Wenger, but in modern terms, that's quite long term. We want to build this team for him, even to the fact of Daniel Levy has taken a massive step back. We've brought in Scott Munn as a sort of to run the club day to day. We've brought in Johan Lang as a technical director. Fabio Paratici's an advisor, and Levy's there to deal with Beyonce concerts and Formula One go-karting tracks. He's so good at doing that. Keep him in the business sense, because that will generate our revenue, and hopefully then we spend it on money. There's a reason why in January we were one of a few clubs who actually spent money. We bought in Dragusin, we bought in Werner on loan, and we bought in Lucas Bergvall. You know, we beat Barcelona and Bayern Munich to these transfers somehow. But you know, it's all this sort of like changing the atmosphere. Because last year I went to the Arsenal game. Funny enough, I went to the West Ham game. We won that one, but the atmosphere at the stadium was toxic. There's like fighting in the arguing in the crowd and stuff like that. So it's just changing that vibe, and not many people are chanting Levy out. There will be people who, like I did a video the other week saying, "Oh, is Levy changing?" And you'll get comments of people going, "He's never going to change. Don't get too far ahead." But it's that whole energy, and it's same vibe. Sounds like a lazy use of the word.
I totally agree. I don't want to liken it to Arsenal too much, but when we were kind of having the toxic time under Emery and the start of the Arteta era, it was toxic, and you could see there was like a disconnect between the ownership and the fans. But now that Arteta's kind of galvanised the club, you kind of see Josh Kroenke is kind of taking a more hands-on approach to Arsenal. And now the kind of vibe, like you're saying at Spurs, the vibe at Arsenal is a lot more harmonious. And I think there is a lot of stock in that if a manager can get a team playing exciting football that the fans appreciate, the vibe just becomes better, even if the results aren't there, which Spurs and Arsenal, they both are. But even if they weren't, if the vibe is good, fans do get on board.
I feel like, as well, you saw from the first minute of Ange's Premier League debut where this was going. You saw the attacking intent. you saw the build up in play. You saw them playing through the thirds. You saw the way that you were getting a number 10 involved. You saw how your wingers were actually getting to the byline and they're cutting in. And you saw all these things happening. Whereas with the first 10 game of Conte, I feel like there was a lot of results in there where you sort of scraped by, and the performances weren't as exhilarating as Ange. And this is where Spurs are going. And you're talking about Ange going to Liverpool. I feel like as much for Ange as for Spurs, it's like it's too much too soon. He's literally gone from he's working in the Aussie leagues, worked in the J League, I believe, went to Celtic. He's come over to the Premier League. That's a massive step up. Even in however many years, it's a massive step up. And then to go from Tottenham to Liverpool to replace Jurgen Klopp is a completely different story. He's replacing a manager in Conte who was on his last legs. It couldn't have got worse. Trying to go from replicating that to replacing Jurgen Klopp is a completely different game. Whoever goes to replace Jurgen Klopp has everything against them. Everything against them. So he had everything to gain from this Spurs appointment. And you're reaping the rewards now. I think you sit fourth in the league, occupying a Champions League spot. I mean, you can't doesn't get better than that. You lost Harry Kane this summer. Do you know how mental that is? You lost Harry Kane, and you're like high flying. You're absolutely smashing teams, blowing them away. You've got your Spurs back, no?
I'd like to think so. Like whatever people think Spurs is, as I said earlier, better attacking football. Like that's all we Spurs fans really want. Obviously, we would like a trophy as well, but that hasn't happened this season yet again. But yeah, I think we're finally getting somewhere. Like I looked at our team last year and having Longley, Dyer, Ben Davis, it just looked like it needed so much more. But as you were mentioning players earlier, like Adogi comes in for nothing from Udinese. Sarr's come in and like been one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. I think this season he's been a phenomenon. Pedro Porro, who everyone wrote off as like, can he play in the back four? Has looked great attacking wise as well as defensively. He's looked more impressive. Vicario, I mean, as soon as I heard David Raya was going to Arsenal and we'd fumbled the bag on that one, I was like, what have we done? Why have we not paid? What are we doing? Although David Raya, I think, is actually still been a good acquisition for Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree.
A 17 million pound goalkeeper from, again, Empoli, I believe.
Yes, so
who has come in and changed the way we play and been able to, don't get me wrong, Lloris, fantastic servant, Premier League captain, all that sort of stuff.
Club captain by the end.
He could not, like sometimes when we were playing out of the back under Conte, it was suicide football. It was 100%. Just, it was too much. But Vicario just changes the speed of the play, brings players in. It's just changed. It's just what we needed. And now I look to the summer and we're still probably, like, don't get me wrong, we're still probably a couple signings away from, consistent top four football and getting, into a title race if people think we're in and around there. But we've got our defence set up for years. We've signed, a 16-year-old from Croatia. We're finding players who are going to, we've got our back line set for a good few years now. It's now about, midfield and maybe then getting a striker to possibly replace Harry Kane if Richarlison isn't the man.
I agree. And on the defence, obviously Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero are a bloody good centre-back pairing. Christian Romero, I've always kind of been split on. I think he is obviously very hot-headed, but obviously very talented. But Van der Ven, he was kind of an unknown quantity to me when you signed him, but immediately I was just blown away. So quick, so strong. How much are you enjoying having Van der Ven and Romero as your centre-back partnership?
I mean, I think it's the best partnership we've had since Prime, Vertonghen and Alderweireld. Because over the last couple of years, it's been a bit mishmash and just, Eric Dyer, as I said, Eric Dyer, Longley, there wasn't really a long-term plan. Romero sort of needed a player like Van der Ven to improve his game because I feel like he was sort of being let out to dry sometimes. And don't get me wrong, he has got a hot head. His aggression is questioned, but you'd rather that's a good attribute as well on the flip side. I just think Mickey van der Ven is just, I can't believe how good he was. I really thought we were going to sign. It was between him and Tapsoba in the summer, I think I can recall. So And I thought it was going to be Tapsoba. So the fact that we went out and signed him, and I just can't believe how quick he is. It's proper needed
So
with
quick,
the way we
like fastest player in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's just what we needed because the way we play is so risky. I mean, I saw the clip of what you mentioned there, when he runs back, and it's like he just gains a shoulder on the player so much. Although the weird thing is, at the end of the clip, he does slide and go out of play. So I'm like, maybe you're going too quick there because you didn't actually get back.
Cut the clip before that. Yeah.
But yeah, he's a Rolls Royce.
Moving on,
Or is he?
We spoke about Ange's great start to the season, those 10 games. And then we were saying for a while, especially those first 10, real test is when you hit that first wobbly patch. We had that game against Chelsea where it went a bit crazy.
It was the weirdest game. That was like a combination of, like you said, injuries, the red cards, and then like your mental high line. You were on 9 men and you were still playing a line on the halfway line.
I think genuinely that was like the best goalkeeper performance I've seen this season in the Premier League, and he conceded 4 goals.
I was saying to Luke
nuts.
that if it was any team other than Chelsea, any competent attacking team would have scored about 10 that game. But Chelsea were just so weird. So yeah, like we said, you hit that kind of rocky patch where Maddison and Van de Ven are out injured, Romero's suspended. And then you go back-to-back losses against Wolves and Villa. You must have been thinking, oh, like you were saying, this is like the downfall begins now. And then you come up against Man City. And I know Spurs have this kind of weird juju over Man City where Man City just can't get a result. Going into that game, obviously, I think did you start a centre-back pairing of Emerson Royale and Ben Davies as your centre-backs, which is absolutely mental. How did you feel going into that game after back-to-back losses and then your centre-back pairing being those two?
I mean, I think it was even worse than that. I think in those 5 games, we went 1-0 up in each of those games and went on to lose all of them. And I think that's a Premier League record, which is crazy if you think about it. But yeah, going into that game, I really thought like Haaland was just going to rip us a new one. I just did, because that was our fault. This is the year, isn't it? This is the year where, don't get me wrong, they apart from the FA Cup game recently, they have struggled at home more than away. Last year we went 2-0 up there at half time and they beat us 4-2. So there is instances where it can happen, and I thought, they're going to destroy us. I spoke to my good friend Kieran Collins, a Man City fan. He's always like, no, like you're never going to, we're always going to struggle. And there was just moments where you just think, oh, here we go. But like Lo Celso pops up and scores a goal, and it's confusing. I think Ange Ball is just confusing sometimes because you mentioned the high line there against. Like, I've never seen a game where Chelsea were getting criticised more than us, and they won 4-1 and we lost 4-1.
It was mental.
And it just is the way of the world with Ange Ball. It just seems to get a lot of praise, which a lot of rival fans don't like. But yeah, with the Man City game, it was just good to show that we can. Like, I feel that is an underrated part of our season. We have actually faced a lot of top teams and got results against them. Like Arsenal I think we were quite good in the 2-2 draw.
Yep.
Liverpool we won, but obviously in controversial circumstances. Manchester, exactly. Manchester United we've beaten, and we drew at Old Trafford. So we've got good results here and there against the top teams. Whereas last year we'd turn up, try and sit in, and it'd just be an absolute whitewash.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we said on the podcast that this Man City game is the perfect opportunity to stop the rot and really cement sort of what you are, who you are, what mentality you have. And to come out of that game 3-3 is ridiculous. That's the
last-minute winner, equaliser as well, which is...
that's the way to do it, 100%. We spoke quickly about the Liverpool game. Any thoughts? I mean, surely you got to have some sort of thought on it, because that was maybe the game of the season.
I mean, it's a goal, isn't it? Like, I can't lie. Like the evidence is there. Like, it is what it is. But the only thing I'll say on this, and I've got a Liverpool mate who gives me stick all the time, and I met him right before the Champions League final. I still think that Sissoko wasn't a handball. So
facts, to be fair,
So I'd rather have a Champions League win than a Premier League win over Liverpool. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, sometimes you just get the luck, and that was one of the perfect examples of it.
Well, you definitely build you buy your own luck, don't you? I mean, the way you play, you for me are without a doubt the highlight package of the season. Like every time Spurs play is box office.
Yeah, and I think one massive factor of that is kind of how your mentality, we've mentioned it, has kind of changed under Ange. It's kind of like this never say die attitude.
Down to 9 men, and you got a line higher than anyone else in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think when you were playing that Chelsea game, didn't Ben Davies miss like a chance like the 85th minute to kind of equalise or something with like 9 men? And like the amount of last minute winners you've had this season, or last minute equalisers, like we were saying in the Man City game, equalised in 90 plus whatever. In that Sheffield United game, you scored 2 in the 90 plus whatever to win that game. Brighton just this weekend, just gone, 96th minute winner. You're in it till the end, and you've got players now that want to fight for Ange. I think, like you said, there was a period where there was kind of unrest. Conte thought he was too big for the Spurs job. A lot of players didn't want to play for him. Now you've kind of completely flipped that. You've got a manager that I think not owes you something, but you took a leap getting Ange in. You could have got a Nagelsmann or I don't know whoever, but you took a leap on Ange, and I think that kind of balance where you've put your faith in him and he feels like he owes you, and like the players want to play for him. You've got kind of a nice balance now where, and you've seen it on the pitch with like I said, all those last minute winners and equalisers. It's a good time.
Exactly. It's good to see. I mean, I don't know if you saw the end of the Brighton game. Vicario and Romero like grabbed each other.
Yeah,
and
going
were like,
mental. Yeah,
I've not seen passion like that for Spurs for a long time. Especially as you mentioned briefly before, like Harry Kane was the standout player last year. I don't think there was anyone who was on that same level, and that's just an ode to Harry Kane because he's such a good talent. But you know, it seems like this season, and I was speaking to on a podcast last night. There's not many players you can point out in this Spurs team where you say who's been the worst, and probably the person you would point out would be Brennan Johnson, but because he's new and adjusting to the team. But I still think like he's turned up in big moments, scored key goals. I think it's really hard. It's really hard to think of a player that's been not that good because they all have delivered in key moments, scored goals, defensive actions. You know, Emerson Royale has just been like, I keep calling him Tottenham's Swiss Army knife. He's played centre back, left back, right back. He's just been an action man wherever he's gone. So yeah, I think it's just been a good time to be a Spurs fan again.
Yeah, speaking of sort of like surprise packages of the season and the individuals there, we spoke about Spurs putting their faith in Ange. Ange has put his faith in one Richard Arlison, who struggled, I think it's fair to say, upon his arrival to Tottenham.
I've never been his biggest fan, and I think quite rightfully, he's never really like kind of gone crazy. He's always been there or thereabouts in the Prem. He was good at Watford. Everton, he done a job, but like
he's consistent at Everton.
Nothing special. Brazil, he gets numbers, but I feel like I could play up top for Brazil and get numbers. And then at Spurs, he was kind of, I don't know, didn't really hit the ground running for quite a big move, I'd say. Had a groin operation and has come back from that groin operation like prime R9.
He also had, I think he spoke out quite openly about the mental side of his game.
Yeah, he did.
Which was good to see. But it's interesting. The only players in the Premier League who've got a better minutes per goal ratio are Mohamed Salah and Erling Haaland.
Where do you stand on Richarlison?
I've been impressed. I was sort of at this level now where I thought I was one of the Spurs fans who was still giving him a chance. I was like, see how he gets to the end of the season. And like a lot of Spurs fans were saying, maybe we've got to cut costs and get rid. But I mean, there were people saying at the beginning of the season, Richarlison is more of an Ange type striker than Kane was, which sounds a bit wild because we know how good Harry Kane is. But it's because Richarlison's more dogged. He wants to close players down. He's quicker. He's, you know, I mean, I think there was a stat, and I can't remember it spot on, but apart from a 1 or 2 goals, Richarlison's goals in this Tottenham team have all been one touch. They've all been zip the ball in, and he's sort of just like, and that's what you sort of need because the way that we play is the wingers and midfielders and fullbacks all get to the byline or the edge, and they're bringing balls back in and they ricochet and pop back out, and he's there to tuck them home.
Yeah.
So they're
he's one of those players that you can't let him think too much when he's in the final third. He's got to play off instinct, and then he'll get goals. And like you said, I think it's an interesting one because he definitely is more suited to Ange, because I can't imagine a world where James Maddison and Harry Kane play in the same team. They occupy the same spaces, and I think that would be a bit of a weird situation. But James Maddison in this Spurs team, absolute, is mental. That I think I'm a little bit jealous, because when we were going between Odegaard and James Maddison, and we went with Odegaard. I still stand by it. I think Odegaard is probably slightly better, but I really, really like James Maddison and what he's bringing to this Spurs team. I think he's came in, and I think he thinks he's the main man, and I love that from him.
That's the thing, he's like a vice captain.
Yeah,
he's got the 10 shirt from Kane. He's got that attitude, like the sort of like Gaza Tottenham attitude of like, joking around, being the class clown sort of thing. There's a few moments where, like in the Brighton game, I think he's trying to do it all, where it's just like just play your game. You don't have to maybe drop as deep, but it's just good to have a creative 10 back. Not since Eriksen we've had a player who's been able to score a goal on the edge or thread a few through balls or something like that. He is just a breath of fresh air, and he was a massive miss when he went out injured.
I think his scope of passing has completely just replaced what Harry Kane had. Like Harry Kane was renowned for dropping deep. I think even watching him in Bayern versus Leverkusen this week, he was dropping so deep, and James Maddison has literally just filled that void. And in doing so, he's allowed you to then have a focal point in Richarlison, in Son. I mean, you've even seen Maddison drop back deeper and have Kulusevski play in the 10. I think he's almost like, you said Emerson Royale's your Swiss Army knife. He does that as well. He does so many things. He adds so many different like strings to your bow almost. He is absolutely ridiculous. I genuinely think he might be, maybe apart from Kevin De Bruyne, the best midfielder in the Premier League. Attacking midfielder anyway.
Big shout.
I genuinely believe that. And it's such a sin that going into the Euros, England have got such a stacked midfield area.
Yeah.
But we've got to find a way of playing Rice, Bellingham and Maddison, in my opinion. Because that
What about Foden?
Mate, it's too many people.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but he's been so good. So good.
So you're currently sat in 4th at the moment. So obviously you said you were thinking about 6th is what you were kind of expecting this season, and obviously 4th, you take that if that was the end of the season. What are your expectations for the rest of the season? So we got, I don't know, like 12 games left. We're in beginning of Feb. So yeah, what are your expectations for the rest of the season?
I mean, it's bold because I think we can get top 4. Because the way I look at it is we have got a mad run. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we're playing like Newcastle, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, like back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an absolute. What we could go. We could somehow get 12 points. We could somehow drop 12 points. It's the way. Don't be a predicting man around Tottenham at the moment. But I think what we need to do is not let games like Everton happen. Like, stop conceding these late goals, work on the set pieces. Like, I think in the last game we did show that we've now put a man between Vicario and the defender who's trying to bully him. But I think with the teams in and around us, such as Villa, Manchester United, I think they're the other two teams who are competing with us. I think Villa won't be able to juggle European football. I think even though they can get into the top 4 and that's impressive, Emery loves a European trophy, and that will be like I think he will see that as a bigger achievement, and Villa fans would love to win a trophy. They're such a historic club. And I still think with Manchester United, and I don't know if I'm being harsh, I still don't see what it's all about yet. They're picking up results here and there, and Højlund looks better and Garnacho looks better and Rashford and whatnot, but I still don't think they're amazing, because even against Villa the other night, they just look they just fall off in games. They look
no
sluggish.
Style of play whatsoever. It's crazy that they've picked up as many points as they have.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Spurs are definitely the favourites out of Villa or Man United. It's about keeping the team injury free. So maybe that's sort of where I'm heading with this. Is going into the end of the season, you said you were fairly active out of most teams in a fairly inactive transfer window. Signing Dragusin gives you a nice little bit of centre-back cover. Timo Werner's quite interesting. Gives you a different sort of option. I think Ange brought him in for his pace. A lot of people are sort of attributing that as the reason why he was brought in on loan. You got any thoughts on Timo Werner, sort of what role he's going to be playing going forward into the last leg of the season?
I've actually pre-done a video on Timo Werner, and I've titled it. So it's like you almost knew. I'm titling it like "Why You're Wrong About Timo Werner." Not you two in particular, but
Probably
fans
well.
in general. I just think when I heard this transfer being announced, I was a bit perplexed. I was like, "What is going on here?" If someone told me we would have lost Harry Kane to Bayern Munich and we'd be getting Timo Werner, I would have thought they were dreaming or on drugs or something.
Yeah.
But I believe, in a time of the year where Son was at the Asian Cup, we didn't know how long he was going to be there. They got all the way to the semi-finals. Brennan Johnson has been, a bit hit and miss. Kulusevski's been lacking some goal contributions as well. Manuel Solomon's out injured. We've got rid of even Perisic on loan. Our attacking options were not that amazing. And when you look at Timo Werner, and Postecoglou's team probably suits him a lot better than that Chelsea team ever did. And and I didn't think he'd just be coming in to score goals. I thought he'd be coming in to run on the wing, stretch the play, bring some pace, and maybe pick up a few assists. I think he's already got 2 assists so far in the Man United game, and I can't recall the other one. But he's been a nuisance. To me, he's been the B-Tech Darwin Núñez. He's causing a bit of... Yeah, causing a bit of chaos, stretching the play. And with Son back now, he's just a bench option. At the end of the day, we've got him on loan for 6 months. Yep. If it doesn't work out, he goes back to Leipzig and what will be. He also wants to get into the German national team ahead of the Euros, the home tournament. So there's that, true. And if he does turn out good, which at the moment I'd be edging towards potentially signing him, it's only £17 million or euros. Yeah. So what's the risk? Like and he's not a bad character, is he? So
no, exactly. I 100% agree. I think he's well known for stretching opponent defenses. Like he will make them wary of playing a high line against you, and he before really played as an out and out striker. He knows where Richie's going to be. Do you know what I mean? He's got goals in him. He will score. Like he will pop in with the odd goal.
Yep.
But for me, I think it's a no-brainer. There's no risk here, is there?
Yeah, it's a good asset to have.
And it's great depth. I think you're 100% bang on there. I think it's a great little January signing.
Yeah, I agree. So talking of signings, let's say we're at the summer now. What areas of this Spurs team are you looking to improve in the summer? And do you have any names that tickle your fancy?
I'll be honest, at the moment, I think before we think about incomings, we've got to shift some players out. We were looking at midfield as well. And we were looking at Conor Gallagher, who controversially I don't want us to sign. I don't think he offers us. Okay. I don't think he offers us enough for what we want in midfield. In the sense of, I mean, he got a brace for Chelsea, didn't he, against Crystal Palace? But I still think for the money we're going to pay, 40 to 50 million, I don't think he's worth that for what we need in a midfielder. But before then, we need to sell like the likes of Højbjerg, Joe Rodon on loan at Leeds, Tanganga. There's lots of players who are, Tangan's on Bele. We got to get rid of some of these players. Our home quota is also an issue, hence why we signed Brennan Johnson. We're keeping players like Ollie Skip, or we kept players like Harry Winks for so long because our English quota is so all over the place. We've got 2 goalkeepers in our Premier League squad who are 25-year-old Englishmen because we need them there. Like Eric Dyer counts as Portuguese. Yeah. He's not a homegrown player. So we've got all these issues to sort. But talking about incomings, I think one more midfielder would be good. Someone who can play 8 and 6 because, we've seen with Basuma and Bentancur, they're not sometimes always fit. So I think that would be ideal.
They're both very good, but you need another one of them to kind of compensate for their slight injury proneness. But they're both when they're on form together, That's one of the best midfield duos in the Prem.
Especially
But,
sitting behind James Maddison.
Yeah, exactly, behind James Maddison. But obviously, you don't know how many games a season you can get all three of those together. So I agree. I think another midfielder that can do what Bentancur and Basuma do would be good.
Another area they've got to highlight, I think, is centre-back depth. Makeshift centre-back pairings of Ben Davies and Emerson Royale. I'm not sure how far that gets you. We know how prone Christian Romero is to suspension. Maybe someone like Dragozan. Yeah, I haven't really seen enough of him yet to make an informed decision.
To be fair, with centre backs we have got now, so it'd be Mickey van der Ven and Romero. Then we've got Dragerson. We've got Ashley Phillips, who's gone on loan to Plymouth and looked quite impressive. We've got Alfie Dorrington in the youth academy, and then we've got this. I think he doesn't sign until he's signed, but he joins next year. The Luka Vuskovic guy.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
So there is some depth there, but it's the jury's out whether they're first team quality or something like that. And also, it's just, unless you're Man City, I've never known a squad where you can keep all these players happy. So it's hard to know who do you bring in of a caliber that is happy to be on the bench. And would you drop Romero or Mickey van der Ven?
It's true. I mean, yeah, one of the names we were sort of toying with was Jared Branthwaite.
I
think he's going to be a very sought after name in the summer window.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of links with Man United. But before we got linked with Man United, we did like who the big six should sign, and we said Branthwaite for Spurs would be a good option, but who knows? Up top, obviously, at the moment you're kind of playing either Richarlison up there or Son through the middle. Do you think Spurs stick with that going forward, or do you think in the summer you look for a out and out number 9?
It's tricky because we've also keen to sign a winger. Obviously, we wanted that Antonio Nusa, but the deal fell through, and then he's got all these knee injuries, and Brentford didn't even sign him. So there is that. But out and out number 9, the problem is, and you'll know this from being an Arsenal fan, that there's not many number 9s out there for reasonable prices.
Yeah.
Like even like people say, "Oh, why don't Spurs go for Tony?" I don't think we're in that ballpark. And then you've got Victor.
Crazy they want so much money for him when he's got like a year left on his deal,
and he's slating them every game.
And that's the thing. Like, and then who else is there? Victor Osimhen's a Real Madrid player. The player I touted was Dominic Solanke, but now I bet he'll be 50 to 60 million. Yeah. So it's not. It's the striker market has got so out of hand because it's so vital and important. But it's hard to know. To pick a name, I'd take Solanke because I think he's quick, he's good in the air, he's strong. He'll do everything, won't he? He'll hold the ball up well. Yeah. He'll
English as well sorts out that home quota.
Exactly. So I think him, but it's not going to happen, is it? Like,
no. Especially if Bournemouth continue going forward, and maybe like you said, Newcastle. I think I've seen links with him to Newcastle as like a Callum Wilson replacement. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. Before we round up, I think might as well ask for a rating out of 10 on Ange's season so far. Where are you?
I'm going to go for an 8. I think 8's quite reasonable because it's been a great Premier League season, been fantastic. FA Cup was just a disappointment because it's just City, isn't it? Yeah, but I think in that game, it was just frustrating. The reason it's not any higher than an 8 is the weak team he played against Fulham in the Carabao Cup. And you look at that tournament and how far Fulham went in it. I think that could have been an easy option for Spurs to win a trophy. I know you would have had to play like a Liverpool or Chelsea in the final, say you were mimicking it. But
you definitely have Chelsea, I reckon, on your day. Chelsea look shambolic.
And you have beaten Liverpool on your day.
You beat Liverpool. So it's an interesting one. But I think 8's a fair score. I think it's probably about there.
I mean, if it had been any better than what it is, it would have been a 10. Like that's. I mean, maybe even 8's underselling it. The amount of turnover that he had to do, the job that he's done in such a short space of time, it's ridiculous. He's only had just over half a season.
Shout out Ange, mate.
Yeah. So the Ange ball is truly and properly flowing now.
Yeah. Sonny, thanks for joining us. We will never talk about Spurs again. This is one too many Spurs podcasts for my liking. But hope all the best, apart from when we play you.
But yeah, if do you want to just quickly plug your socials one more time?
Yeah, cheers, guys, for having me on. And yeah, I mean, what a good time to talk about Spurs, even if it is for one time and one time only. But yeah, Sonny Talks Spurs on YouTube, usually uploading nearly every other day. Lots of different topics, lots of game reactions, exclusive podcasts. You can become a member if you are a Spurs fan on there as well. Support the channel. And then Sonny Snelling on my social channels, Twitter and X and Instagram and all that sort of stuff if you want to keep involved.
Love it.
We'll have everything down in the description below if you do want to check out Sonny. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for joining us. It's been BoreDraw. It's been episode number 85. 84.
It might be 85. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, up the Spurs.